What's happening, guys? It's Logan Robinson from Here the Spirit, presented to you by NoGameDay.com. We are here with our instant reaction after Florida State takes down and practically splatters the Yellow Jackets 41-16 here inside Doak Campbell Stadium. It was a noon kickoff. Florida State took care of business. A little bit of a slower start from Mike Norvell and a little costly mistakes here and there, but eventually momentum swung in Florida State's favor, and they put this one away pretty well. With me this afternoon is just Dustin Lewis, our editor-in-chief at NoGameDay.com. Dustin, how are we doing? It's nice to have a win here again after Florida State's three-game losing streak.
Very nice, especially a win by 3 or 4 possessions like Florida State was able to pull this one out today. But it really, kind of like we talked about on Wednesday night, thought coming out of the bye week there might be a little bit of sloppiness early, and we saw that from Florida State with the fumble at the goal line that Georgia Tech was able to turn into the field goal. But, I mean, from there on, Florida State pretty much dominated this game outside of a touchdown from Georgia Tech coming out to begin the third quarter. I mean, it won 131-3 total yard advantage at the end of the first quarter, 360-24 yardage advantage for Florida State at halftime. And I mean, man, that was pretty much the story of the game. The offense was able to get it clicking finally at the end of the first quarter and into the second quarter. And then the defense, especially in that first half, flying around, 8 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, only in the first half, as they really just took it to the Yellow Jackets.
Yep, they did. I mean, the stats are just wild to look at. Number one, we'll start off with Jordan Travis having another career high and passing almost 400 yards, 4 yards away from a 396 on the day, 3 thrown touchdown. He ties his career high in passing touchdowns. D-Lou, this just looked like a really dialed in Jordan Travis on this field today, and he talked about it. And Mike Norvell did too during the press conference, saying, I kind of had some anger going into this one. I just enjoyed the bye week, said he went down to Orlando, did some shopping, did a lot of thinking for these 2 weeks. And he came out here and looked sharp, and he connected with a lot of wide receivers. He go to Johnny Wilson to his 78-yard catch and run. Really impressive. Just overall, a really nice day from your QB1 in Garnet and Gold.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's any secret that people knew that Jordan wanted to come out here and play better. He put a lot on himself over the 3 losses that Florida State suffered by a total of 18 points. There was a couple throws throughout the course of those games. You think back to North Carolina State. There's some things that he wanted to take back, and especially going into this bye week, the last week, he wanted to recharge and also just get back to the fundamentals. And we talked about it on Wednesday. I thought Jordan needed to come out here and play a little bit more loose, have some more fun. And I thought that's what he did today, but he did it in an engaged manner. And there were a couple drops from the wide receivers, but overall, the skill players did a good job of getting out and getting open and making plays for Jordan. I mean, you look at the 78-yard touchdown pass to Johnny Wilson where he breaks a tackle, then he puts a juke move on the defender, and you've got a 6'7" guy going down in the open field, sprinting into the end zone. And, it was either a drive or a couple drives later, Travis goes to the left side and hits Lawrence Toafili for that long receiving touchdown. So Travis was on point, but I thought his skill players did a good job of helping him out as well.
Yeah, they definitely did. Not at first, though, with the drops. That was another thing. Was felt like flashbacks. Felt like flashbacks to earlier in the season where it hurt Florida State, but there was a response in that one with Lawrence Toafili having those 2 fumbles, and he makes that great catch. And then I think the play after the catch was even more impressive with finding the end zone there. More Norvell talked about Toafili after the game, just saying that's why I love this kid. We just see that in him, and they believe in him, and that's why they continue to go with him even after the 2 fumbles during the game. So a nice day for the offense after a slow start. We talked with Jared Verse too after the game, and he said, we can't have a slow start like that again. It just can't happen. And we talked about it on the podcast all throughout the week. Florida State's got to play 4 quarters. They did that a little bit there, but the first quarter just still slow for a team that you're going against. Georgia Tech, as we saw today and we've seen in weeks past, not a special team. You're expected to come in and dominate, but a little bit of a faster start. And that might not be of a surprise, D-Lou, with them coming off a bye week, had the rest, but still, you got to have a quicker start heading into next week.
I don't think it's a surprise. You've got to be a little disappointed for Florida State to come out on that first drive and have 2 back-to-back drops on 3rd and 4th down that force you to turn it over on downs, and then get up into the goal line and you've got that bad snap from Maurice Smith that Lawrence Toafili isn't able to quite corral. And then, yeah, Georgia Tech recovers, and that's how they get on the board first. So, I mean, there's still some mistakes that this team is making, but I think you've got to be encouraged. You know, despite Florida State having 2 turnovers and a turnover on down, 642 total yards today, they almost outgained Georgia Tech by 400 yards. So, I mean, even despite these miscues that the offense is having at this point in the season, they're still putting up a ton of production. Especially, you know, when you look at Georgia Tech, they'd only allowed, I believe, one other team on the season to score 40 or more points, and that was Clemson. So their defense, not the most highly rated in the country, but I mean, they had been solid at certain points. And I thought Florida State, for the most part, put together a very good rhythm after those first couple of drives. And, you know, we talked about Jordan Travis, but then you've got to go to Trey Benson as well. I mean, he was just running through every single tackle out there. The duo of Benson and Toafili has been very productive for Florida State, despite Treshaun Ward being sidelined these past 2 games. So if FSU is able to get Ward back later this season, I mean, man, that 3-headed monster might be running as good as it ever has this season right now.
Another running back to mention here, we saw a return of C.J. Campbell, walk-on running back for Florida State. Really impressive here. He talked after the game, all smiles too. And, you know, he told us right up, you know, he came back from a broken fibula. And for this recovery to happen so soon, Mike Norvell called it remarkable. And it sure was. Watching him go down on the field and get into the end zone was truly impressive. And then to see on the Jumbotron too, looking at the sideline and almost half the team, if not more, almost the whole team going over there to celebrate with CJ Campbell. He brings such a different kind of presence on the game field here and also in practice. We see it all the time. We see it with CJ Campbell and just the love and admiration his team has for him. So seeing him get into the end zone was awesome. You know, back in August, we were told that from Norvell that we wouldn't see him for the 2022 season, and for him to come back after an injury in August, now getting the end of October to come and do that, extremely impressive. And if you're able to get CJ Campbell going, you saw little flashes here today. That's a special running back. We were very high on him during the spring. You know, you had the unfortunate injury, but this is a special talent there. And this room is absolutely loaded once you do get Treshaun Ward back, D-Lou.
It just says a lot about the kid's mentality to suffer a broken fibula, which is, I mean, is a very serious injury, to undergo surgery. And then to fight his way back. And, you know, he was out on the practice field. This is the first time that we've seen him at practice in full pads, taking contact this week when we were out there. And to have him come out, get in the game, and then score his first career touchdown, I'm sure that's got to mean the world to CJ Campbell after the offseason. He had, you know, a really good showing in the tour of duty, good slate of spring practices where it seemed like, hey, maybe this guy could break into the running back rotation among these other 3 guys who have been terrific this season. And, you know, for CJ Campbell, a walk-on, scout team player of the year last year, you know, that's kind of just, I feel like, an epitome of the heart and soul of Florida State, to see a player like that work so hard to get back and then have some success.
Let's jump over to the defense, D-Lou. We got to see a lot of sacks today. We saw really nice plays from Jared Verse, and you saw Fabian Lovett back out there on the field. And it's easy to tell. I mean, and it's Georgia Tech. Let's be honest here. Georgia Tech not having a great season, interim coach, you know, a lot of things upside down for them right now. But you see Robert Cooper and Fabian Lovett, that tandem back together, that pressure on the inside just increases by so much, man. It really does. We talked about it on the show earlier this week that when that tandem's together, Robert Cooper feeds off of Fabo, and it's the vice versa over on the other side for Coop. And, you know, the pressure was there. You also on the outside with Derek McLennan, Jared Verse, and also shout out to Leonard Warner too. He's had a nice couple of games in October. Just the pressure was all over the place, and it wasn't easy for 2 backup quarterbacks on Bobby Bowden Field.
Yeah, the first half for that defense, I mean, just absolutely ridiculous. It felt like from the front 7 to the defensive backfield, everyone was engaged and flying around. You know, we talked about the 8 tackles for loss and 2 sacks in the first half, 360 to 24 advantage in yards. And Florida State only gave up 1 first down in the first 30 minutes, and Georgia Tech was only averaging 1 yard per play at halftime and under 1 yard per rush. So, I mean, from the get-go, the defense was really getting after it. I'd have to see, I guess, 6 3-and-outs in that first half, 5 3-and-outs. I have to go back and look at it exactly. But it felt like Florida State's defense was coming out there And then about 30 seconds later, they were forcing a punt. And at first, it got a little sloppy over the final 30 minutes. I thought the defense it wasn't as engaged after halftime. And then as things went on, you got some younger guys involved. AZ got taken advantage of a couple times there in the end. But overall, very strong performance from this defense. And after playing three really good offenses like you just did, to have a performance like this going into these final four games, I think it could really help this unit come together, especially now with Fabian Lovett back. And we're predicting him to continue to play a bigger role moving forward in these final four games.
I was going to say I was pretty impressed with how many snaps he got today, D-Lou. I was like, damn, okay. I felt like there wasn't much taken off him. Of course, in the fourth quarter, you had a lot of starters, including Fabo and Robert Cooper out, and maybe some others too, like Jared Verse. But Fabo got a lot of snaps today during this game, and that's got to be a really good sign for him going into a big-time rivalry game against Miami. But I thought that was really impressive to see him out there and first game action since injury against LSU. He just plays such a vital role to not just that defense, but as a leader on the team. And having him on the field is even greater.
Yeah, and he was getting in the action up until the middle and through the end of the third quarter. So, yeah, I'm definitely interested to check out PFF whenever that data becomes available just to see what his snap count looked like today because, I wouldn't be surprised if he was in the 25-plus range, like you said. Seemed like he was out there pretty often, but at the same time, Florida State, they were getting Georgia Tech off the field fast. So interested to see what that final pitch count looked like.
Yeah, but now Renardo Green, too. Oh, right in the hands, man. Right there to the chest.
Yeah.
Can't come away with the interception. Just little missed opportunities by the defense today that could have really sealed the deal and put this game away a lot earlier. Mike Norvell said the same exact thing. These little missed opportunities could have helped Florida State put this to an end at halftime almost. And just execution. I do think you have a bye week, have time off, a little rust. But once Florida State found that rhythm, they were putting it away, and it wasn't even a game. So a nice, solid performance from Florida State's defense, taking care. This was expected to just dominate against Georgia Tech, and they did that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if there is one thing that you would have wanted to see coming out of it, maybe Florida State gets a turnover or two in this game. But we did talk a lot about how Georgia Tech just really doesn't turn the ball over. Only 6 total turnovers entering Saturday, whereas they had forced 15 on the defensive side of the ball. I guess they can add 2 more to that today to increase their turnover ratio, which was 4th in the country entering Saturday. So, you would have liked to see the defense get a turnover, but I thought with the amount of pressure that they were able to put on Georgia Tech with the tackles for loss, the sacks, it was a pretty darn good performance. And, there's just some natural human emotion to kind of drop off a little bit when you're dominating an opponent that much in the first half. But, the way they were flying around, it's very encouraging for what Florida State has to deal with over these final 4 games.
Yep, final 4 games. Florida State is going to go take on Miami next week on the road. D-Lou, how are you feeling about this one after just barely getting away with a win against Virginia? What was that, quadruple overtime?
14, yeah, it went 4 overtimes and 14-12. No touchdowns scored in the game.
Oh, I'm so glad
it was
did not watch that.
It was 3-3 going into overtime. I'm sure that was a very thrilling game for Miami fans. But
yeah, exhilarating.
It's kind of hard to judge Miami until we really know what's going to happen. Tyler Van Dyke couldn't play today, so he was replaced by backup quarterback Jake Garcia. I feel like if that's the Miami offense we're going to see next weekend, Florida State has a very good chance at pulling off a road win in this rivalry. But we'll see if Van Dyke is able to get healthy enough and make it back because he had a pretty good game against Florida State last year. Everyone's going to remember the spike and a couple of the interceptions he threw. But this is a capable quarterback when he's in a rhythm. And if he is available next weekend, you don't want to let Miami find that rhythm.
No, not at all. Jordan Travis ending off the press conference saying, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to push this team. And sure enough, today he played well, and I think this team is excited to get down there to Miami, getting their first true rivalry game of the season whenever they take on Mario Cristobal and the Hurricanes. But today, Florida State takes care of business, defeating Georgia Tech, splattering them 41-16. D-Lou, anything more?
Yeah, they ruined my title, man. If it would have been 41-10, that's more of a splatter. But of course, I was talking to Tommy up there in the press box on that final play, and I was like, hey Tommy, watch, Georgia Tech is going to score with 0 seconds on the clock, and sure enough, I mean, quarterback
Yep.
sneaks in there, and 41-10 would have looked a lot better than 41-16. But I think regardless, Florida State will take this one. And 5-3, you snap the 3-game losing streak. You've got 4 more games, 2 of them rivalry games against Miami and Florida. You were only 1 win away from getting back to the postseason since 2019, and maybe that's something we're overlooking a little bit today. But regardless, Mike Norvell has Florida State on the cusp of bowl eligibility for the first time since he got to Tallahassee. So that would be a big achievement for the Seminoles, if they're able to pull it off. I think they will.
Yep. Yep. I think so too. I think there's a good chance that Florida State is going to see bowl eligibility, and we'll be covering a game outside of November. That would be very nice to do that. It's been a very long time, but like I said earlier, Florida State takes care of business, 41-16 against Georgia Tech. We will have a show on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. giving you full preview and breakdown of Florida State versus Miami. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us today. Enjoy college football and football tomorrow in the NFL. And we'll talk to you guys on Wednesday at 8 p.m. here on Hear the Spear. See you guys.